Bonsoir les amis, this is Llyane Stanfield and you can find me at parisianfrench.com. Today I would like to answer a question that came from the group, and the question is, good morning madame, may I know how the French language is the sweetest language? It is the main cause to connect with love. That's what he says. Bouboun is his name. And of course, if you would like me to answer your question, please join the Facebook group. And so there are a few things that I already created the answer in the Facebook group, which is much more complex that I'm going to go in here because I don't know, out of 27,000 people, what exactly you are interested in. And so I know in the group people are so active and they give me feedback, and I know exactly what they're interested in. So if you too are interested in this topic in much more depth, please come and join the group, and not only will you find the videos that are much more in depth, but I will also answer your questions on video. So for someone to describe the language as a sweet language, that tells me that the main sense that this person is using is the sense of the taste. We can say the French language is sweet, or we can say for someone whose main sense, so the brain operates through one main sense, and that would be the auditory, for instance, the hearing. A person like that would describe the language as music to their ear. Another way for me, for instance, I see the French language as a dance. So for me, I'm visual, so I see it, with the movements and the dance, and that's the way I see it. And everybody who's visual will have a certain vision, a certain image attached to the main impression that the French language gives them. And the reason, so just compare, for instance, like honey, right? So it's sweet, and for me, it's visual. Of course, I'm going to see the honey, pouring, falling from a teaspoon. That is so smooth, right? And so that is mainly because the vowels are longer than in English, and then probably more languages, if I think about it. And so because of that, is much more feminine. So especially because I've asked this question, what would you like to know about the relationship connection between love and French? Most people who answered were men. And so the reason that is because French is a much more feminine language than English. Because I'm visual, I'm going to compare it in my terms, in the way I see it. And so French is, so English is the way a dog walks, and French is the way a cat walks, right? It's much more feminine. Please ask me your questions in the comments below. If you do, I'm going to include them in the Q&A on Sunday. So that is one reason. Now, also, it is because the words themselves in French are much more fluid than the words in English. What do I mean by that? And that's important, very important, when you learn the language to take in consideration, to really not forget that the words in English are very self-sufficient, they're encapsulated. The words in French are much more fluid. In English, for instance, for a different context, I will have to have another word because silly, goofy, and funny are not exactly the same. They're not synonyms, really. And so they're so precise. It's so precise, where am I going to use silly, goofy, or funny? And so in French, it's not like that. We of course have synonyms, and synonyms that don't overlap completely, which kind of is what synonyms are. I mean, the language will not carry too many words that they become obsolete because redundant, right? So we're not using, and the language is want to be efficient, right? So we're going to speak fast, clear, and to the point, most languages. And so the moment a word is difficult to pronounce, or it just doesn't fit, or whatever, we have too many synonyms, it's going to drop out of language and out of the dictionary. So know that the French, though, is using a core of the words for the core meaning, and then it can be used in different contexts, taking the meaning based on the context, whereas in English we have very precise meaning for each word, and that's important when you learn, because most people are looking for exact translations, and that's so hard to do in these conditions, right? But you see the characteristic. English is the language of business, and French is the language of diplomacy. And so in business, or sciences, but business, right, you have to be very precise. In diplomacy, you have to be much, smoother, and as well as, politicians are speaking a lot without saying much, right? And so it's that kind of dance, again, I'm going back to dance, of the words and play on words that in French is possible, much more so than in English. Much more feminine. And so for an Anglophone male, French will always look a lot, feel like a very romantic and the language of love, because French is much more feminine, has many feminine characteristics compared to English. So that's in a nutshell, but if you want a much more in detail video, please go to the Facebook group and see it there. And of course, don't forget, there is a Valentine's special that ends on the 20th, and if you would like to know more about it, again, go to the group. Stay on your game and don't ever give up on your dream to become bilingual. Learn to speak Parisian French and break your language barrier. Merci beaucoup et à dimanche. Au revoir.